So this is my setup. We can see here the battery. This is a ES2 battery, 42 volt, and here is the Flipsky board connected directly to the battery and also to a receiver. Okay, this is a Bluetooth receiver, I guess, and it is connected to the motor. Here is the motor, and I have here the remote. It is now connected, and it took me a lot of time to configure, and it is not yet good enough. I will show you. This is one direction, so you see it is not rotating, let's say, smooth, and the other way, do you hear the sound? It go, and this is to the other direction is okay. So I'm not yet sure what the problem is. I will try to fix it, and it was very hard, and I will show you the process because it took me a lot of time to configure everything, and you have to do a few things. First you have to download firmware to this board, and then you have to work with the GUI on the PC, and you have a free of charge GUI that work only on old firmware, and you have a new one that working on other firmware, but then you have to pay 15 sterling pound. Okay, so first you want to go to the site, and then you can go to ESC, and you will see here all the ESC controllers that they currently have. By the way, on the top left are the new one, and if you go down you will see all the available stuff. These are the new ones. Okay, so now we would like to activate the tool itself. So we will go to the bottom and choose the technical support under the support, and then we have some PDF with instructions. So we can choose one of them, for example the second, the VESC via CAN bus using a PPM signal radio. You can click and open it, and then you have a link to where to download the tool under the same page, VSEC tool. Here you have on the bottom the tools that are available. So you see there are some that cost and a free tool. You can add it to your cart. What I'm using is the gold tool and not the free tool because it's enable more options, and this is what I chosen, and I think it is also appear in the PDF. So you add it to your cart. If you want also, you have to pay with PayPal or whatever, and then you will get a link to download the tool itself. After you download it, you want of course to run it. So let's run the tool. I will start with the free tool. So the free tool is Acmaniac ESC tool 3.103. By the way, 3_103 is the firmware version, which is not like the other gold tool, which has a newer firmware version. So probably this is the basic firmware version. So we will choose it and execute the Acmaniac ESC tool. Here we will press the connect, and it will not connect since we need to upload the correct firmware. So we will go to the firmware tab, and then you have to click on the download. It will update the firmware on the board, and you click yes, and it will do it quickly because I think this is a basic version of firmware. Okay, now after it is downloaded, you need to go to the connection tab again and press the auto connect. It will not connect, then you have to wait few seconds and then try again. Now it is connected. You can see it on the top left side, connected, serial to COM5 in my case. And then you want to go to the general. This is the most important tab because you want to modify a parameter here, the current to the maximum current of your motor and your battery, because you don't want it to explode while running this application. So this, I find it the most important tab. So you want to limit the current, especially for testing, and the absolute maximum current 15 amps. My battery, I will put here also 15 amps. Battery current again, I think this is when it is charging the battery on break, I'm not sure. Maximum watt of my motors, I will put 200 watts, and the braking again will be minus 200 watts. And now we can change the voltage. You can see on the bottom you choose the number of battery cells, and 10 cells lithium, this is my battery. So when I will press apply on the bottom right, it will change the voltage on the top. This is the cutoff, so 30 volt for 42 volt battery. On the RPM, of course, need to change it again to the motor RPM, the suitable RPM. You need to know it or to check it or whatever. So I'm doing 600 and minus 600, and here are other stuff. We will go to the BLDC. I'm using a sensorless, but you can use a sensored motor also. And if using a sensorless, it will detect all the parameters with the wizard. We'll see it later. About the integrate or delay, I think this should be just for the sensored motor. I don't know why they put it also to the sensorless, because sometimes you have a delay between the phase and the motor, depends. So I think it should be only for the sensored and not for the sensorless, but we will use a sensorless. So now we'll go to the FOC, and here we have a detect and calculate parameters automatically. So here you need to connect, of course the battery is connected already, but a motor. You need to connect the 3-phase to your motor. So I will put it to my motor. And by the way, the firmware is not 5.2, it's 3.1. You can read it on the button and see that 5.2 was the version before. And let's do a read button here, and just a second, you can see read firmware version up, it's automatically appended to 3.103, hardware 410, and the other I don't know what it is, maybe the MAC address, I'm not sure. So now we'll go back to the detection. It will first detect the resistance and the inductance of the motor, and when pressing each button here, it will do things to the motor, so make sure that the motor can spin and you will not break something, for example your hand or arm or whatever. So we will press the detection for the R and the L. Okay, so now let's press it. and here we have detection. It is spinning the motor now, it is doing all noises and things like this, and it detects the resistance, inductance Kp, Ki, and now we will press on the lambda button here, and it will detect, by the way, it will now spin the motor and detect milliweber and the observer gain of this motor. Now we'll press apply and the M button to write and modify the data to the motor. So now the ppm here is in order to connect the way that the motor will spin. Usually you're using a duty cycle or something like this, or ppm method. So here, for example, you need to connect your remote control, which I couldn't in this application. So this is why I decided to move and buy the God application, which helped me. By the way, the real time you can see parameters. Let's look at the real time window. Here, for example, you can see the RPM, FOC, rotor position, and other data. This is the debug console. You can see all the commands that moved while pressing all the buttons and everything. But anyway, he did not help me with the remote. I'm sure I can configure it, but I decided to move to the version that I bought. So we will now try the bought version in order to solve these problems and be able to rotate the motor with the remote control or other input that we have. Okay. This is probably for the Wi-Fi motor, NRF, I'm not sure. I didn't find anything about it. So let's continue to the other version. You can see a radio channel and other data. Okay, so this is the gold version. So let's activate and see how to work with it. Okay, so here we have it, and now let's again with the auto connect. It will not be able to connect, so we need to go to the firmware and download the firmware for this application. It takes much more time probably. This firmware is much more bigger in terms of memory size that it uses. So we'll wait till it finished download, and again we need to do auto connect. If the auto connect doesn't work, so we need to do it again. So we wait a few seconds and then connect up. It is application configure updated, so now it is connected. So now we will go again to the wizard, but before the wizard, before choosing any motor, we would like to update of course the current. So we will close it. We go to the general tab, not here, here, and the current. We will limit the current to much lower current because we don't want anything to explode. So let's put 5 amps motor current maximum break -5 amp, absolute maximum current 10 amps, and battery current maximum will be 10 amps, not 15, and battery current maximum again -10 amps, and we want to write it because unless we write it, it will not be using these parameters. Now we can choose from here the motors that we want to use. Here we will modify the number of cells, 10 cells. We can go to next. The gear ratio is first the wheel diameter. In my case is about 25 centimeters. Direct drive, since I don't have a gear in this motor, we will do a run detection, and now it will spin the motor, so be careful, and it takes time to do everything. So it will do many noises and the motor will spin, and it can be very dramatically force on your hand or whatever, so make sure that everything is clear and good for this detection that might take some time. So be patient because it is trying to rotate the motor and get feedback and back EMF, and by this to conclude what are the parameters for your motor. So by the way, the motor is starting to spin right now, and we have a serial error because it was disconnected. This sometimes happens. So it did give a success, but we can go to the advanced and change the EP RPM, round per minute, and we'll change it to 700. I don't know about the motor pulse, but maybe 30 is the number, and we are using the lithium and running detection, and again it will spin the motor, so be careful. So connecting again. Let's go to the wizard and motor setup wizard, and we have a brushless DC motor, and here we change the motor current max to 10 amps, motor current max break to -10 amps, battery current 10 amps, and battery current max regain -10 amps, and next. And we will change the battery for 10 cells. This is the battery I'm using. Apply, and next, and sensorless. And now we can spin the motor by pressing this button. It will rotate the motor and find the parameters. So back EMF coupling and integration limit. Unknown hole error because the hole is not configured. It's sensorless. So of course it is the maximum value. So basically this all in all is all the process. You need to play a little with it and find and change the setting and adjust it to your motor. So some of the motors I find it working perfectly, some less perfectly, but probably I need to update some parameters in order to make it work. So overall this is working okay.